What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the new Street Smarts podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about all the high leverage things that you can do to market yourself and your business without spending thousands of dollars in the process. Today, I have a very special episode planned out for you guys. I'll keep it short and sweet because I feel like last week's went a little long and we didn't really get the viewer retention that I was hoping for. So I am thinking about 10 to 15 minutes is going to be the sweet spot for these episodes. Today, we're going to be looking at the best email marketing software for content creators, personal brands, and even small service-based businesses. This is a question that I've been getting a lot. I get people asking, what software should I be using for my emails? Should I be using MailChimp? Should I be using Flowdesk, ActiveCampaign? You know, there's so many different email service providers that it can be a little bit overwhelming if you're starting out and you don't know exactly what to pick. My first recommendation and advice to you, if you already have an email service provider, would be to keep using what you're already comfortable with and what you're already on. Unless there are some features that you absolutely want and your current ESP, that is short for email service provider, if there's a feature that they're not offering you, then you can start looking and shopping around for other ones. But if you have a small list and you don't really have a specific reason to shop around or to move platforms, there's really no reason to do it. Each platform really specializes in a specific given area. So this answer is going to be different for everybody. So just because somebody on social media tells you to use one specific platform doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work the best for you. So you kind of have to shop around, test different ones, but I'll kind of give you general rules of thumb. Sorry, I can't speak, but general rules of thumb for you to guide your decision based off of your needs. So that is the first point of this episode, and that is to really nail down what you want and what you need from your email service provider. And this is going to depend on a couple of factors, and one of them is going to be the size of your email list and your budget. Obviously, the more advanced you get into this email marketing stuff and the bigger that your lists get, the more expensive that your monthly fee is going to be to host all of your contacts. For example, most email service providers out there would be free if you stay under 500 contacts. So if you have a small email list, you kind of have an upper hand because you don't have to start paying these platforms yet until you get bigger, or if you want to start using one of their paid features, which some of them do only let you use the free features on the free plans, which I guess makes sense. But if you have a tiny list, I would say just pick one. Pick one, depending on how tech savvy you are. If you're on the less tech savvy end of the spectrum, I would recommend MailChimp. I don't really like MailChimp's interface. I feel like it looks very outdated. By the time you're listening to this, hopefully they've updated it. But from previous clients and times I've used it, I don't really like their platform. It feels old, so it just feels a little ancient for me. But now that I've used or have experience with newer email marketing platforms, but MailChimp has a very good deliverability. Since the platform looks so old, they're very easy to set up. So if you think you're gonna have trouble with the technical aspect of it, I would advise you take a look at MailChimp. Very easy. Plus, since they're a super well-known brand, there's a ton of tutorials and YouTube videos on how to do different things if you ever get stuck during it. So if you have a tiny list and you're not tech savvy, go with MailChimp. Now, if you're an e-commerce brand and you're on Shopify, I would recommend Klaviyo. Those two platforms really talk very well with one another, and most people that are on Shopify choose to have Klaviyo as their email service provider. As your list gets bigger, you're going to start having to think about very different things. So if you think that you're going to need an autoresponder or different automations or tagging or segmentation, then you really want to go on the landing page of these ESPs and look at the features that they all have and see if it would be a good fit for you. Most of these email service providers, they will have similar features. And once you learn how to use one, you're pretty much going to know your way around a lot of them. So if you are a complete beginner, just start with one and whatever one you've been eyeing, because once you learn how to, send emails and learn how to work with one platform, they all kind of generally work the same way. And it's not going to be a huge difference or a huge learning curve for you to switch from one to the other. Preferably, you choose right off the bat one that's going to work for you. But in case that you don't, or you outgrow that specific platform, then it'll be way easier for you to take your audience and your all of your automations and your autoresponders and stuff like that onto a new email marketing software, which some of them are cheaper than others depending on what you need. But if your list is super small, you're not really going to need to spend a whole lot of money to send emails. So if you have a bigger list, which I know will be a few of you listening to this podcast or watching this video, then you'll have to start worrying about deliverability a little bit more the bigger that your list gets. So having an email autoresponder that where you can segment people and create like little tiny groups inside of your email list would be very beneficial, because sending emails to a tiny group inside of your email list versus your whole email list at once can affect your deliverability. And usually emailing little segments inside of your email list versus emailing your full email list, you do tend to get better open rates and deliverability on the smaller groups. So that's just a little pro tip. That this is just for lists over like 10,000 people. And if you're emailing them all at once, if you're under that, you don't really have to worry about that just yet. Now, if you want something that's kind of like the full solution as far as like sales funnels, you can do opt-in pages and everything like that within them. Right now, there's a couple of platforms that can do that for you, which is System.io, which is the cheaper version of like ClickFunnels. But they have been really stepping up their game as far as their development. I'm currently playing around with their email marketing platform right now. I'm noticing some things. Deliverability isn't that good isn't as good as your actual email service provider, something like an ActiveCampaign or a Flowdesk or GetResponse. It's not as good. This could also be because the domain that I'm emailing from on that platform isn't as it's fairly new, so that could also be a factor there. So, but it's I haven't had any issues with it. I still stay above like 29% open rates, which is pretty good for me. I also have a full YouTube video explaining all of these. This was back like a year ago where I made this video, so not too much has changed. These platforms do add a lot of features all of the time, and that is something that I think you should be looking at also when you're making your decision. Usually platforms that are constantly adding new features and constantly trying to better their platform are usually going to be the ones that you want to go for, because you know that in the future there maybe something with iOS happens where you can't really keep accurate track of like open rates or click-throughs. Then they will come out with something that can probably combat that. So if it's a platform that is actively making improvements and trying to evolve within this like environment of privacy and iOS, whatever, you really just want to choose someone that cares about the user's experience and the marketer themselves. To end this episode, if you're a small list and you're just getting started, my biggest advice is just keep using the platform that you've been using. If you want to switch or you don't have an email service provider just yet, just pick one, any one of them. Look at the features and benefits and look at what you think you're going to need first. For example, if you're like I said, an e-commerce brand, or you're on Shopify, or you're selling physical products, usually Klaviyo or something that allows you to track abandoned carts, lost carts with whatever website builder you're using is probably going to be the best option for you, because then that gives you the ability to track and tag and be able to put people in abandoned cart sequences or other triggers for your sequences as well. So you really want to find out which email service provider works best with your website builder, or if you don't have a website yet, find out which email service will have like opt-in pages for you that you can build right inside of your email service provider, which is most of them nowadays, but some of them look way better than other ones. So, or maybe some of them are mobile optimized and some of them are not. So that would be something that you want to kind of research for your specific situation. If you are more advanced and you have a bigger list, you can then shop around. Pricing, I believe, would be the biggest factor here. If your list is anywhere, between 1,000 and like 5,000, that is kind of where it starts getting a little tricky, because I know ActiveCampaign is a great service, and they're very competitive under 1,000 subscribers. But once you go over 1,000 subscribers, then you're paying way more than you would with another email service provider. So that is all something that you want to check out. And depending on your budget, I don't know what your budget is. Only you know that. You kind of have to shop around, but hopefully that helped. I know it wasn't like a straight up answer for you because it's such a wide topic to cover. Like I said, I have other videos on it. However, if you did want to ask a specific question for your situation, you can leave a comment on the video. If you're watching the video version, if you're just listening to it, you can shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'll leave it linked in the show notes or the show description, and I'll do my best to get back to you there. And yeah, this has been the New Street Smarts podcast. I hope you got a lot from it and enjoyed it. And we'll see you on the next week's episode.